which would be handy. I would like that. But yes, we are now live to the
All right.
masses.
I'm recording.
Ooh, this could get scary. Welcome everybody to episode 174 of the You Can't Comp This NBA Trading Card Podcast. We are your hosts, Adam, Amy, and Russell Gibson, and we're back to business as usual, I think.
Yeah, it feels like it's been a couple of weeks since we actually have done a pod, but
Yeah, there's been a lot happening.
technically put one up last week.
We did. And speaking, well, that was our hobby hangout, wasn't it? All the 5 minutes of, and sometimes going more than 5 minutes, probably courtesy of myself. Fire.
That was easily the best episode we've ever done, honestly.
That was fun.
I think
that was heaps of fun.
And just getting all these different opinions and viewpoints and different takes that, we just would never come up with that stuff ourselves. Like even Jared's one, which I probably thought was the most zaniest of all the ideas. That was a really fun idea.
Yeah.
And I've had people message me saying like, that's a really good idea. Like, why hasn't someone done this? Why can't we do this? So, and I wouldn't have thought about that, in a million years. Like it was just the whole thing. I just really enjoyed it and just getting out and seeing people. And I think, Matthew Payne's interview, and he spoke about the relationships that people build and all that type of stuff. And he's right. It's 100% right.
It's an amazing event. It's good to have so many good people in the hobby. It was great chatting with everybody. So, yeah, looking forward to the next show, for sure.
So just a really quick rundown for today's show. We're actually going to have one more interview from the Hobby Hangout. And it's going to be Philippa from PSG Collectibles. I hope I've got that right. PG Collectibles AUS or Oz. And then we're also going to be doing our promotion of our giveaway for our YouTube channel. So Adam has been working away on that, and it looks infinitely better than what it was. And our activity on that ad has gone up exponentially. So the line used to be sort of down at 1%. I feel like now it's sort of, what do you reckon, 60, 70%?
We've got a little bit of engagement on the reels. Yeah. People are checking out the episodes. People are checking out snippets of the episodes.
Yeah.
Because I have been putting up little highlights from old episodes and the most recent ones, just with topics that I think hard-hitting, nice and quick 10 minutes where where I rag on Luca for 10 minutes. Like, everyone wants to listen to that.
Absolutely.
Exactly, yeah.
Give the people what they want.
Yeah.
So how the competition's going to work is that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're currently at 80 subscribers. I checked that before we came online today. Once we get to 150 subscribers, we will take everyone's name, put it into a randomizer. The top spot at the end will be the winner, and then we'll contact that person and get it out. Now, I was looking through the back-end settings today. I can't see people's YouTube profile name if they've hidden it. Yeah. So if you do want to be in the competition, unfortunately, you do have to, make it visible.
Name, basically, you need to let us know that you subscribed, and it's not.
Yeah, that's right. So they have subscribed, but they can be secret. So look, I don't really know how that sort of stuff works, but anyway, that's like one thing just to sort of keep in mind. The prize is going to be Revolution Hobby 2223. We purchased that from the lads at Fast Break Trading Cards. Bit of a quick shout out to the lads here. If you are looking for sealed stock, they are the absolute go-to.
Sure.
In Melbourne, or they're online, so in Australia. I think without much further ado, Ad, we just get to it. What do you reckon?
Let's get stuck into it. Yeah, it's good. Yep. We've got a lot to go through today.
So this is a interview that was recorded at the Hobby Hangout now 2 weeks ago with Philippa. So we're going to listen to that now. Alrighty, we are back, and I'm here with Philippa from PG Collectibles. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Russell.
Yeah, and I'm just going to preface this with a very broad statement. The hobby is a very male-dominated space, and as a woman, how do you fit in, and how do you interact with people within our hobby?
Great question. And look, for anyone who knows me, I am very opinionated and loud.
This is what we need for a podcast, okay? Yeah, this is perfect.
And look, it's been a very interesting experience. I've been in Pokemon now for 6 years. Yeah. I've had my business for over 5 years. I've been a middle person for over 4 years now.
Doing PSA grading, the middle person?
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
And there's a lot of stigma that we found because it is such a male-dominated environment. Unfortunately, because of some other things that have happened before with female-run businesses in Australia and streamers in the past that have kind of sometimes done a little bit of the wrong thing.
Yeah.
It was a bit harder building that up. But we're in 2024. There's some absolutely amazing female streamers, businesses out there. You know, shout out to like Booth Collectibles, for example.
Yeah.
But when we first started, there was a lot of comments around, like, I get told a lot when I stream I should lower my shirt, which is not okay.
Yeah.
We're in 2024. I understand sex appeal and such sells, but nobody wants that.
Yeah. It's definitely a choice for people to do that or not.
Exactly. And I am full, positive when it comes to sex positivity, everything, but I'm not going to do that to try sell things.
That's not your shtick. Yeah.
The thing that sells my brand is the fact that I know Pokemon in and out. I'm passionate about it. I always say I would always prefer to buy from a collector than just buy from someone who buys to sell.
Yeah.
So I have a massive collection for myself, and I invest my time and knowledge into everything.
Yeah.
For myself, I found certain things like changing people's connotations, for example. Something I was telling you about before
is, talk to us about that. Yeah.
As a middle person, you always hear, do you know a middleman?
Yeah.
And I'm not about that life. I'm a middle woman.
Yeah.
And I know when I first started changing things, like people on Facebook would say, I want a middleman. And I'd be like, hey, I'm a middle woman. And people would laugh, react it, and be like, oh, sorry, they're asking for a middleman, not a middle woman.
Yeah. The hobby is full of trolls, though. So I think, yes, they are trolling you, but I would also probably say, too, they're not just trolling you. There is a lot of trolling that happens in this hobby.
100%, and we all expect that.
Yeah.
But the great thing is that I've built my reputation up to a point where now there's people that just come and just go, no, middle woman.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing it's far more prevalent now that people are actually saying middle woman, not just middle man.
Yeah. Or
middle person is becoming far more popular, which is absolutely amazing to see.
Yeah.
4 years ago, you weren't seeing that.
Yeah.
And it sounds a little bit silly to be kind of pushing that point and to have to say those type of things and then have to say that people don't like it.
We all have our things. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is, it'll keep changing. People's perception of things will keep changing, but it's really fun. I'm going to say, just changing the status quo, changing the norm of what people expect, and just making sure that there is more female-run businesses out there. There's female streamers that I absolutely watch, and whenever I see them on TikTok, like Snorlax cards, jump on them all the time, and I'm like, hey, how you going? Love this, because you can always tell they care.
Yeah.
Right? And there is not enough female representation, but it's like any industry. We need more females.
Yeah.
Because there's that caring factor that you get a little bit different to males. I'm not shitting on any males. Anything like that. I have so many friends in this industry. And
so I've got a 6-year-old daughter, and I would like her to go into the hobby.
Yeah.
So as someone who maybe considered as a role model, what are you doing for the next generation of female collectors?
Teaching them.
Yeah, sure.
So, for example, one thing we have right now is a show bag we've made for the hobby.
Yeah.
And in it is a playmat, some sleeves, and a deck box, and a box to open. Because what we want to teach the basics of card care from the beginning.
Yeah, great.
Because from myself, I started collecting when Pokemon came out in 1996.
Yeah.
I trashed those cards.
Yeah. They were in your pocket. You were carrying them around. You put plastic bands around them.
Took them to school. Lost them all.
Yeah, it was awesome though, wasn't it?
100%.
Yeah.
But you want to teach them to actually care for things from the get-go.
Yeah.
Which is what I just had a young girl come over. I've seen her at every show. She always comes and looks for us. Always take care of her. And I always, teach her the different things to look out for. And just show them that Pokemon isn't silly. People care about this. And that's something they can come to and be like, and feel a little bit ashamed about it. Hell no. You like it. You love it. Your favorite Pokemon is Victory Bell.
Yeah.
Don't let anyone shame you for that. It's about teaching them the love of the hobby.
Good place also here to meet people who have the common interests as you. I think sometimes until you meet those people that have common interests, you can feel a little bit like that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite things I've done in Pokemon is I have a group chat. For my regulars that have come in there, and we have spoken through divorces, suicide, trigger warning and such.
Yeah.
But we have been there through. I've had messages from people like 4 a.m. because they trust me and they know
Yeah.
they can come to me.
You're the second person who said this to me today. It's about socialization and support. Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
Where, I'm in my 30s and a lot of my friends, a lot of my friends don't understand Pokemon.
Yeah.
And they're like, why, Philippa, why do you like this? And I'm just like, you don't understand. Once you get into it, you'll understand. And I stay in the hobby because of the people. I'm looking at these wonderful businesses and I'm like, I'm friends with them. I'm friends with them. I'm friends with them.
Yeah.
I could call these people tomorrow and be like, I need X, Y, Z, and
Yeah.
they'll help me straight away.
Yeah.
The people in this hobby are what keep you coming back.
Yeah.
Because they are wonderful people.
Great. I think we should finish it up there. That's the perfect way to finish it.
A little bit over the time.
Thank you so much
Thanks
for
so much,
coming on.
Russell.
That was
Lovely to meet
amazing.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty, that was awesome.
Yeah, that was great.
Alrighty, we are back, and I'm here with.
You're gonna. I was gonna say, you didn't start playing it again, did you?
I did.
Oh, we can listen to it twice if you want. I don't know. Maybe we'll play it the second time later on.
All right, I'll be able to fix that up in the post edit.
No, that was a really good interview.
Yeah, so I think Philippa is really well spoken, very thoughtful, and I've written down a list of things that I wanted to mention to you, but I'll let you have the first stab. What was your opening thoughts about that?
Yeah, look,
interview with Philippa?
You guys already touched on it in the interview. I think it's disappointing. We're in the year 2024, and we've still got idiots being inappropriate in streams.
Mm.
I mean, the most inappropriate we get is Anthony Mill coming in and saying that Luka Doncic is a good investment. So I would, I mean, I can't imagine anyone wanting us to take our tops down, but it's just, Look, you're right. There's no place for it, and I'm glad it's sort of Philippa's persevered and gone through that, and she said that used to be what it was. So I'd like to hope that's changed, even though you do get the odd idiot, because there are idiots in the world.
I think that's an unfortunate part of the internet. There's so many amazing things that the internet can do for you in terms of delivering content, connecting you with people, but it's also an avenue for people to be online trolls.
Yeah.
And I also think too is an avenue for people to say things that they would never say to someone's face.
Yeah, for sure.
It's this strange dichotomy of
the
behavior
keyboard warriors.
You have like your online persona, and then you have your real world persona. It's this really weird sort of thing of how you can sort of behave. So I think that's really interesting. But look, it's also a fine line too, because the reality is there are content creators out there that is actually their shtick of literally
that's the foundation of their business,
stripping off their clothes and holding Pokemon cards. So, I can also see how there could be some bleed out into other areas, but then that just puts it down to people being able to read the room, right? And so,
well, there's one thing if you would expect for anyone in a live stream is simple, just be respectful. And that's one of the rules in most live chats is just don't be an a-hole and be respectful.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Look, I'm pretty lucky. The group that I manage are very kind to me, actually, and I feel like they know my idiocentricities and the mistakes that I make. I'm pretty consistent in that way, and so they don't give me a lot of crap. I've had some people over the years that come into the group and give me a hard time, but it's very, very, very few and far between. So I've been really lucky that way.
I do understand her pain. Most of my friends don't understand basketball cards at all. They know I talk about them a lot.
It's so true.
But it's like, you've got your podcast, that's your outlet. You could let people that actually want to listen to you talk about them.
Yeah. So I love the part she spoke about education. I think that's a really good place to start for people. And that part she spoke about too, about buying off a collector instead of buying off a flipper. I think that is so true. You know when someone's organic, and you know when somebody is in it for the right reasons, as opposed to just, making out a margin. I think that's a really good. And we talk about that in some offline group chats about some store owners that, don't own basketball cards, but are selling basketball cards, and all how that sort of plays out in the perception of that too. And
for sure,
it is a really interesting thought bubble for that.
I think the term there is, especially obviously there's the story behind the card. If you the card's going to a good home and you're buying and selling from with collectors. but you're also if you're buying off a collector or selling to a collector, you're literally investing in the hobby.
Yeah.
Like you're keeping the money in the hobby. So, and I think that's a good thing. But yeah, let's go back to education. I think that's amazing. Teaching the younger generation to look after their cards is really important.
And it's a very broad term too, because I think you could almost consider our podcast to be educational.
For sure.
You know, we talk about all different facets of it, and some of it's absolute nonsense, and some of it is stupid, and some of it sticks, and some of it's logical. So,
yeah.
And I think that's where she's getting to with that, and I think that's very true.
Yeah.
The show bag, I actually purchased one of those for my kids, so
nice.
It was really good value, actually. It was really good value, so I just went out and got one. I'm very happy with it.
Yeah.
I think again, she put a lot of thought into that. You know, it's very purposeful for young collectors, and it's perfect for my kids. So
perfect. Oh, that's awesome.
The group chat thing was really good too, and I think Matthew Payne spoke about that. It's exactly the same, word for word, what Matty Payne was saying about the socialization, the support, the divorce, the on and on. I think it's a very personal thing that people do develop. So
the hobby, the biggest thing, and I asked this a lot over that weekend, or posed the question in and around the hobby hangout. It's become one of my favorite new questions because we all if someone's in the hobby, we know they've got in, right? Like everyone's got their origin story, and don't get me wrong, I love a good origin story.
Yeah.
About buying your first pack of cards and hitting the first big hit you ever got.
Yeah.
But what is keeping you in the hobby, the resounding message I got from that was the people.
Yeah.
The people, the community that's built in the hobby. And like catching up with people at the hobby hangout was a perfect example.
Yeah, definitely.
And the friendships that are formed and those close bonds, which is really, really important. And I think very important part of what we do and why we're still here.
Amen. Alrighty, let's take a break, Ad, and let's get to a commercial break is what I really should have said. Fastbreaktradingcards.com. Check them out right now, as in right now. They have their Black Friday sale still going. Automatically discounted by, this is going to check my maths. Everything is discounted by 10% currently. Nothing needs to be put into a promo code, anything like that. Everything on the site has already been pre-discounted. Check them out. Alrighty. Phoenix Blaster Boxes, $67. Contenders Blaster Boxes, $67. We have got here Donruss Optic Fast Break for $540. We have got here Select Hanger Boxes for $67. There's some good value going on here. Donruss Optic Hobby Boxes for $765. Check it out. Fastbreaktradingcards.com. You will not be disappointed with their customer service. And we are back. Adam, how are you feeling, buddy?
I am feeling incredibly, incredibly refreshed.
Relaxed?
I am. I'm relaxed. It's good. I actually had a bit of an afterthought because remember how we were talking about our YouTube promotion. I'm going to do some Inception right now for those playing at home.
Oof.
Ready for this? Oh wait. Oh god. Forgot the right screen setup. Can't. No, we want the one that's got. I was going to show everyone our YouTube channel. Like while we're live on YouTube, it feels like Inception.
Well, how about while you're getting that set up, I will start introducing the next segment.
Yeah, for sure. Because you've got. It's a big one coming, isn't it?
Yeah. Well.
Come on, there was a play on words there. That was funny.
Alrighty, the next segment is actually something that we leveraged from a show a couple of weeks back. We said, wouldn't it be good if we did a Jokic versus Wemby? So here it is. I sat down, I found all the stats, I found all the statistics. It's all in a platter in front of us. So I think the first thing we should start off with is just looking at the aesthetics of the card. Adam, which would you pick just for the pure aesthetics?
Oh, are we going on aesthetics with
We're going to go through the whole lot, mate. We're going the whole lot.
I'm taking the Wemby.
I have to admit, I like the Wemby too. I know
Wemby.
People absolutely shit on this card when it first came out with the black Kurt at the back, but I liked it.
I think
I
it's
thought
more the
it's.
template that we're not overly happy with.
I think the design is cool. I really like it.
Really,
Yeah,
like
honestly.
I don't know. It's early it felt it, and then we saw what Topps brought. So this is
Yeah,
amazing.
it's all right.
So yeah,
You
you're
joking?
right. After seeing what Topps rolled out, that's that curtain idea, amazing.
Anyway, so all right, that's done. Alrighty, statistics for this season: 23 points a game, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 47% from the field is Wemby. Now listen to this; it's just insane. 29.7 points, 13 rebounds, and 10.6 assists at 56% from the field. So that's Nikola Jokic. It's just unbelievable the way this guy's playing. And there's a little bit of a thought in my head at the start of the year that he wasn't going to be playing that well this year, and maybe he's getting old and over the hill and he's going to slow down, but he's just an absolute machine. I just can't get over how good at basketball this guy is. Alrighty, so I think the numbers conversation, we don't need to really discuss that, do we? It's
No,
Jokic wins that, right? That's done, isn't it?
the
Yep.
numbers. Yeah, I think Jokic is where it's at.
Alrighty, if you turn over to the next image there,
Yes, let's.
you will find I left the nameplates at the top, and then I just broke up the
That's
pictures.
pretty cool. I like the way you've laid out that info.
Thank you,
That's great.
sir. Photoshop is amazing. It's really not me. I can't take the credit for it,
I like it. I still like the layout. I like the PSA.
What I did make really big on that is the population, because that was really the piece of information that I wanted to highlight the most
Well,
from this particular
what's
slide.
not really big? The population of the Joker's PSA 10s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's insane. So, again, if we're putting this, 1 versus 1, Jokic wins is absolutely hands down. So, population on this is 178 on the PSA 10 silver. On the Wemby, it's already at 3,942. Hey, can you remind me my take on this? Did I say there was going to be 10,000 silver PSA 10s graded, or did I say there was going to be 10,000 silver PSA 10s graded?
Ooh.
I need to go back and listen to that episode again.
Yeah.
So if anyone's listening at home and can actually remember what I'm
Might
talking
be-
about here,
You might
and
be right. Yeah.
send me a message and say, because either way, I'm actually feeling pretty confident right now that this 10 is going to get to 10,000. It's just absolutely insane how many of these have been graded.
There's a lot of them, isn't there?
Now, if you're looking at the two graphs here, you've got one that's obviously trending downwards, and I wouldn't call it trending downward hard, but it's definitely in the opposite direction to what the Jokic's going. The Jokic, obviously, they're two polar opposites. Jokic was a second-round pick. Wemby was the number 1 pick, so you get all the hype that's associated with that. Jokic had no hype at all.
Jokic was picked in the middle of a Taco Bell ad.
Literally.
Yeah.
And he was probably eating Taco Bell at the time, too.
Let's be fair. Yeah, probably was.
Yeah. So you can see where Jokic spiked up, really hard, and we don't need to tell everyone at home what that was all about, but that's COVID there. And then after that, it's really been up and down. Like, it's really been up and down a lot. And I was talking about this card last year saying, this is the card to buy, and then it went up and then it went down. I sort of got cold feet, and then I wasn't really too sure, but the way he's playing at the moment, and it's actually still technically trickling down a little bit at the moment, but I don't really understand the true reason for that. Just with the low population, how well he's playing, the 3 MVPs, it's just a little bit head scratching at the moment for me. So
the way he just goes to work and just it's
all right,
it's pretty amazing.
let's.
Can I make a point on the Wemby side?
Yeah, man, go
On Wemby. Now, we were talking about this the other week when we were talking about Luca. Is that just an example of the hype tax in action?
Just flesh that out a bit more, because I'm not 100%
So
sure.
when
I'm
we were
with
talking
you.
about Luca the other week, we were using Tatum as that steady guy that was always at that $700 to $800 mark, right?
Yeah.
And my thought is Tatum and Luca are about the same, except everyone's paying the hype on Luca as if he's already won, and that's where the gap is.
Sure.
Wemby came in and everyone lost their mind and bought that card for $2,500. Is this like year 3 or 4 Wemby prices? If he does fulfill the hype, if he lives up to the hype, that's where the card hits. Like the prices that it was going for early, or does the pop just kill it?
The way I perceive this is that it was huge hype that came out around it, and then as that hype has died off, the sale price has come all the way down.
He settled in at that Luka price. That Tatum price. It's interesting.
Yeah. Which I think is a fine price, by the way. Like, considering, what he's done, and you look at his body type and the sort of the injury risk that I associate with that sort of super thin body.
Yeah.
I think for me, really, it's the population. I think that's what's really going to hold this pricing back on this. Even if he's the next Michael Jordan, I still don't see this card ever being, a really, really valuable card just because of how many I still think is going to be coming out to get graded.
Yeah.
Because if you're looking at the PSA grading numbers that's coming out each month, it's still Wemby, leading the basketball charge. Yeah.
Okay.
But so look, I think at the end of the day, the question is really, which is one would you buy? Would you buy 3 Wembys or would you have 1 Jokic?
There's temptation with Wemby because of the price point at the moment. But the pop count difference, I just did it on the calculator. It's 22. It's more than 22 times the pop count. So why wouldn't you buy Jokic at that? Like, I think Jokic at the pop count of sub 200 with what he's already achieved, I think that price point of less than 3K is a really good is a buy.
Yep.
Yeah.
I get, like, the price tag of 2,600 is high. So I get why people have stepped away from that or aren't trading on that. And it's also really interesting. Look how many sale points there are for the Wemby.
Okay,
But it's just insane. There's so many sell points there,
There's only
and I think
178 of the Jokic, so you can't sell it too many times.
But if you want to like define liquid, like that is the definition of a liquid card. Like that thing is getting traded, 2 or 3 times a day. So, I think
that's true.
I think that's good for the hobby. Though I think having a card that's liquid and if it settles into a point where it's being traded healthily at that sort of $600 mark, I think that's totally fine. I think my word of warning here is just don't overpay for this card because the risk is that it could bottom out, quite badly.
Yeah, we've seen,
and maybe that's the play. You wait for it to
Zion.
You wait for it to bottom out, and then you pick up a couple. I think that's totally fine. Just a really quick update on Tatum. It's currently trading at 690, so it's actually higher than a Tatum still. Like that's nuts to me.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. Alrighty, let's go to some listener feedback, and then we'll go to our next break ad.
Cool.
Card. I'm going to need you to help me this one, ad. Ashian. But I'm sure that's a Pokemon reference or something like that I'm missing. A Cyan? How do you say that?
Let's read. It is. Yeah, I'd say a Cyan.
Okay. Difficult to find.
Kardashian. Could it be actually just a play on words and be Kardashian?
Kardashian. Yeah, cool. Well done. Difficult to find a silver PSA 10 Jokic. And who wants to sell it? Meanwhile, you can find a lot of Victor for sale. The pop will make it impossible to break 2,000 again. Yep, 100%. I think that's actually a really good take and probably something that we should have said ourselves at.
Yeah. Well, that was there. Like, I think the pop count's a huge thing with these silvers, and I think it's undervalued. I did point out 22 times the pop count. It's 22 point something times 178 to get to that 3942.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
This is from Twitter at Josh Eberly, and he's a Canadian. So thank you so much, Josh, for contributing. Glad Jokic's value is starting to match his historic hold on the game. Yeah. And that's really where Jokic is moving towards, isn't it? Like an historic all-timer. He's absolutely nailed that too. I could not agree with that more.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Alrighty. Anthony Milne on Facebook. Investment-wise, if Wemby stays and plays in the NBA for 10 years or more, Wemby will be a better investment personally. And team achievements are yet to come in the equation. With Jokic has achieved 3 MVPs and a ring. Still not popular choice for investment if that answers anything. Look at Kobe, Durant, and Giannis's cards. Only certain cards will do well. And I think that's the key to invest in the hobby, knowing which cards and the timing. So my take on that is that Anthony thinks because the card is only $700, it can go upwards. And he's putting the Wemby into the same conversation as like an MJ, a Kobe, like the really true like liquid guys.
If he is one of those liquid guys, it will always be traded, right?
Yeah. I don't think, because a card is liquid.
I think he's low on the superstar status of Jokic, though. Because
I get what he's saying,
made the
though.
point. He's won 3 MVPs and a chip, and
still
what's
no
it
one
done?
cares.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. After he gets his 5th MVP, they might. Because it feels like he's just going to keep doing it, right?
I think my concern was that he was going to be coming in out of shape and not being motivated to play basketball, but then he comes and does this ridiculous, you know, stuff what he's doing now. He's literally just a machine. So I don't know, that really changes my mindset. I'm not going to lie to you. The last comment is from Amir. Hello, Amir. I hope you are well. We think alike, Russ. Now he's reading my mind. See, the funny thing is, I'm pretty sure Amir's a Wemby guy, whereas I'm a Jokic guy. So I'm actually not 100%
I'm not sure
if
you
Amir
you
is
are
reading
in
my mind.
Yeah. Maybe you've changed his mind. This is next level Inception stuff.
Speaking of Inception, have you sorted out the YouTube for everyone?
I do. I popped it up on the screen just before.
Okay.
Where are we? Yeah, there we go. Nice. Yeah, the layout's nice and good. It's actually got us as live on the page. Yeah, zoom in. There we go. Live now is us, and then if you go down, you've got some of the episode highlights that I've popped in there, including my lovely eBay nightmare. Interviews with like Tyson Beck, with Lane, Robert Steinfeld. Our interview with Mike Geo, that was cool.
Yeah, cool.
And then you've got the full episode catalog plus a bunch of shorts that we post up every week. So there's lots in there. Hopefully, hope we can get to that 150 mark and give away that box nice and soon.
Yeah, I think we'll get there.
Yeah.
Alrighty, it's time for us to go to an ad break. Now, we need to unfortunately say goodbye to our friends at the Hobby Hangout. Our mutually benefiting agreement has ended. But we do have a little bit of news. As of next week, we will have the Melbourne Cartel supporting the show. So, huge thank you to Darren.
Nice.
We're just ironing out the last couple of details, but that will start next week.
Awesome.
Thank you to the guys at the Hobby Hangout. And our next ad break will be brought to you by US Sports Cards Australia. Go to sportscardsaustralia.com.au. You will find a beautiful black and grey looking website for you. We've spruiked ComCA a million times. Let's do something different today. Let's go to the memorabilia page. Roscoe has got up a Steve Francis autographed jersey for $90 AUD. If you scroll down a little bit, he's got a Soccer Hit Parade jersey up there for $604. I actually don't know if that's a good or a bad price. And then moving down to the bottom, we've got the TriStar Hidden Treasures autographed basketball jersey. That has the potential of Kobe Bryant, Giannis, Jokic, Paul Pierce, Kevin Durant, Dwayne Wade, Donovan Mitchell, Anthony Edwards. That's got a Wemby, a Banchero in it. That's a huge lineup. So absolute packed with potential golden hits in there. Then going to Roscoe's sealed section, he has got Court Kings International Blasters there for $259. So if you are blank slate chasing, head over to that. Select 23-24 for $1,299. I think that will probably just about do us, won't it, Ad? Thank you so much to US Sports Cards Australia for your ongoing support. We really appreciate it. Alrighty, Adam, we're back. How are you, buddy?
I'm great. I was just flicking through the YouTube channel to see if there are any videos I might want to watch, but I'm good at the moment. It says we're live still.
Okay. I mean, that would be
That's
terrible
handy,
if we're not live.
Yeah, it'd be bad if we weren't.
Alrighty, this next segment is actually a written piece. Now, it's from Stefan Higo. And Stefan, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. And Stefan has written this beautiful piece about the Hobby Hangout, his reflections. And so one of the reasons why I got into podcasting is actually because I used to enjoy creative writing. And so I'm basically just too old and too lazy to do that these days. So instead of writing something every week, I do a podcast and craft ideas out of that. So I've actually been thinking about writing up a bit of an article very loosely for a while now and just haven't quite worked out what it's going to be. And I thought if I did write something, I could read it out into the pod. So Stefan, honestly, you've inspired me to get my act together. I really love what you've done, mate, and we're going to read the whole thing out on the podcast. I messaged Stefan, and he is very happy for us to do this. His one condition, though, is that we shouted out his Instagram, which we were already following him anyway. We already share his content, but I'm more than happy to shout it out on the show. Go to Instagram and check out The Old School Collector. He's got some really cool cards up there. And yeah, he puts a fair bit of time into it. So without any further ado, let's get to this. Melbourne Hobby Hangout Review. Arriving at 11:30 a.m., I was greeted by a huge line of eager collectors, frothing at the mouth as they swarmed into the Melbourne Pavilion. The single line went for several blocks, and arriving late, I joined the back, but must say entry staff did a good job and it moved pretty quickly. Upon entering the venue, two things were immediately apparent. The hobby is alive and well. Love emojis ×3. Applying deodorant before card shows remains optional. Crying emoji face.
Oh boy! All right, I'll take it from here. The atmosphere inside was electric. Like most collectors, I'm always keen to get in a quick lap to see what's around. But the early crowd was so big that it was actually difficult to get close to some of the display cases. No doubt, some early bargains were had by some lucky collectors, as there were noticeable gaps by the time I finally got around to some of the displays.
Well,
you can
sorry.
go. I was going to do a second paragraph.
While purely a basketball collector, I must admit I do appreciate looking at some high-end stuff from other sports, AFL soccer. I like that separate sections at this show were put together for Pokemon dealers, etc., which seems to work well for everybody. I may even start collecting Pokemon one day. Well, go talk to Philippa, mate. That would be perfect.
From my observations, plenty of dealers were keen to buy and trade at this show. This obviously benefits the attendees selling and getting deals done. But the added benefit is that displays get updated with fresh new cards during the show.
Yeah, which is true.
Huge respect to a couple of dealers that I watched purchasing cards from young kids. Let's be real, cards they probably didn't need. Absolute assets to the hobby, you guys. Having said that, some of these kids can actually hustle with the best of them, so you were probably ripped off.
As a fan and collector of old school NBA, it was great to see a couple of dealers with a few vintage basketball cards in their display cases, something we don't see much of locally. One dealer even had a couple of graded 1961 Fleer singles. If you know, you know.
I saw those.
I managed to pick up a nice cheap vintage Topps Dr. J card and should have bought a nice Topps Kareem too. If the seller is listening to this, please DM Stefan.
We've been well and truly spoilt for card shows in Melbourne in 2024, and after attending 2 Melbourne hobby hangouts and the recent Oz National, I may be a little bit card show fatigued. But to me, this shows seem to be lacking some of the high-end fibre and real quality pieces that I've seen at previous shows.
One downside, which I must mention, was seeing the same overpriced cards on display from the same sellers, who had them on display at the same prices at both the previous Hobby Hangout and Oz National. If it ain't selling, there's a reason. Drop the prices, amigos. I get there is room to negotiate, but when the starting price is way too inflated, most, including myself, won't even bother.
The barista setup at the front door was a nice touch, and I think the bar is a great addition at the Hobby Hangout. I didn't have a beer this time, but there is nothing better than strolling around on a Sunday afternoon with a stubby in hand and admiring sexy cardboard.
The food trucks, as always, were popular with hungry collectors. Smash Burgers elite, and let's be honest, there is nothing worse than being at a card show with no caffeine and an empty stomach. Yes, Card Fair, I'm talking to you.
The speaker setup is a little bit awkward in my opinion, really loud on the microphone, and not many at the show seem to be listening, care, or paying attention. Probably some worthwhile topics being discussed. Tips for card grading was one, but in the middle of a busy show, it's just background noise and probably needs to be done in a quieter area for people that are interested in the topics so they can be discussed.
Yep. What I'd personally like to see at the show is more variety. Dealers selling cards not already offered up online and unique to the show. This promotes benefits for the die-hard collectors who actually show up to these events, although I appreciate attendance is difficult for those living in other areas. I'd also like to see more variety in memorabilia, e.g., graded Sports Illustrated magazines, signed photos, jerseys, posters, starting lineup figures, etc. The dealer selling mini Nike shoe keyrings in mini Nike boxes would have cleaned up. A perfect stocking stuffer for Christmas. Shout out to Jono for the awesome t-shirts. I'll be wearing my Jordan rookie card t-shirt to the next show.
Apologies for the long read, and I get that everyone is looking for different things at these shows, but I thought I'd share my thoughts and personal experience. I do enjoy attending these card shows, and one of the absolute best parts is getting to catch up with some great, genuine people in this hobby and meeting new people I've dealt with online. Just having a chat and having a laugh. Looking forward to the next one.
Look, just an amazing article. So thank you so much for that, Stefan. And what's your thoughts? Where are you at, man?
I'm very much I'm very much in the same opinion. Like I think it's great to have such good people in the hobby. The fatigue thing I did question, because we'd been to 2 hobby hangouts, we'd been to the National, but I feel like there are some dealers out there that really take on board everything and have been listening and sort of paying attention. I don't know. It seems like there's a split.
Yeah, look, there's a lot in this article that I agree with. The only thing I disagree with is the deodorant part. I mean, if you put on deodorant and then you sweat through it because you're seeing all these amazing cards, like that's you can't help that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly, exactly right.
So, the deodorant thing, I'll give people a pass on. Like, I get what he's saying though. It can be brutal at some points when you're all like pretty clammed up together.
For sure.
The part about the negotiating, that's 100% true. There was a couple of cards I looked at and I checked comps on it and it was like triple. And I just didn't even, I was like, what's the point? Like, what are you going to do? You're never going to negotiate to something that you'll be both happy with, right? So I 100% understand what he's saying on that. But from a dealer's perspective, I get that too. Like, if you picked it up in the last couple of years and you might not want to take a $2,000 loss on it. So,
but what about rotating what you've got on display?
Sure.
Like, there's got to be a happy medium somewhere, right?
Yeah. So I actually saw something in a US card show where they're making, Instagram content or whatever, and they were talking to the guy about that. I think the question was, what's the biggest loss that, you're going to take on a card?
Yeah.
And he paid, I can't remember what he paid for it. Let's just say he paid $8,000 for it. It's currently worth $3,000, but he was saying, I won't sell it for anything less than $6,000. And if it doesn't sell for less than $6,000, that's fine. I'm going to put it back into my briefcase and I'm going to carry it around until it goes up. And if it never goes up, well, then I've got this card forever. And so maybe that's also people's perspective on that too. I paid $1,000 for it. The least I will take for it back is like $650. Yeah. Even if it's like a $300 card now. And you know what? I'm going to die with this card. And so that could also be people's perspectives on that. And, do you know what? That's totally fine, so.
Yeah. I totally agree.
The speakers bit, I actually agree with that 100%. I think it's really difficult to consume the content that they put forward. And, I don't think this is privileged what I'm about to say, but I think the content they put up on the stage is really good. But the issue is being able to sit down and listen to it. And I think it makes it really, really difficult.
Yeah.
And so if they could work that out in some way, I think it's really easy as someone like me, it's just sitting back, just on a podcast saying this. But if there was like a breakout room or a small lounge area or something that was relatively noise insulated, where you could sit down, have a drink or eat your dinner and listening to someone on the stage with that and sort of being like away from the hobby hangout. Do you know what I mean, Ad?
Yeah, for sure.
Because actually, I think the content they put on the stage is really good, but it's just almost impossible to consume.
The point of it, it's just not, you can't it's hard to concentrate on it, even
Yeah.
if it's a super interesting topic, because you're right in the middle of everybody trying to look, and it's that
Yeah.
busy spot.
And there's a sound guy there too. They've actually got someone there like mixing the sound and, putting
Yeah.
on like DJ music. So it's not like that's even an
Completely
issue
agree.
per se, where they've just got like some crappy speaker there and just someone holding a microphone that's got all this feedback in it. Like it's actually,
Yeah,
the
legit.
sound is good. That's not really the issue. It's just the whole sort of setup of it. So anyway, and the variety bit, look, I get what he's saying on that, but I think that's also just the size of our
Yeah.
population and, and how that sort of works. And
That's sort of out of our control, I guess.
well, I was just going to say, I think that's going to change over time because it's growing and we're seeing the growth now. We're seeing more and more tables come out.
Is
And
less
you
is
spoke-
more though? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, do we need 3-4 shows in a year? Or
No, I
should
think the
we...
shows are going to get bigger, Ad.
But do we do 2 big shows in a year? One hobby hangout, one national.
Yeah.
Does that work out as a bigger event rather than every 3 months there being a show?
No, I think the demand is there.
Okay.
And I think if you put the shows on, people will go to them. I think people enjoy this stuff, mate. I think we've already touched on that with the socialization part. Like
For sure,
people
for sure,
really
for sure.
enjoy, even if you're not picking up a monster, you're still going there and you're having a good time. So I think if you build it, they will come. I think that's not an issue. But I think Matthew Payne spoke about this on his interview. He was saying that they're doing I can't remember exactly what it was. It's like a comic book convention plus this, plus that. So it's going to be sneakers.
Oh, there's a big one
plus-
at the exhibition center that's coming in the middle of
Right.
next year, I think. Yeah.
Exactly right. Yeah. So, and that sort of touches on that a little bit, doesn't it? Because then you get all that signed memorabilia, you get, this and that. And look, comics are, graded comics, I think is very niche at the moment, but I think that is definitely growing and, people are sending them off. So I think that will come into the space a
Plus
little bit more
whatnot,
too.
there was
So,
live stuff going on.
Yeah.
It was for sure. Yeah.
all right. Final thoughts, mate?
That was a very well written piece. I look forward to the next review.
Maybe you should do some writing professionally, Stefan. Is that possible?
Yeah. It was awesome.
Alrighty, we actually don't have a sponsor for this next ad break, so we're just gonna sit here and have a drink, Ad, and we'll be right back.
Twiddle our thumbs.
Yeah. Alrighty, mate. The fourth and final segment is incoming.
The fourth and final installation of the night's show.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So, would you like to talk about repacks?
I mean, I don't particularly like repacks, personally. Although, actually, no, I do like repacks. Sometimes I think there are some repackers that are better than others. How about that? Is that a good place to start?
Okay, let's take one step back. We went out and had fried chicken and got drunk after Hobby Hangout, and this was the most intelligent thing that we came up with, was a whole piece about repacks. So I think that's where we should start.
We asked some questions. Yeah, some questions were raised about repacks. The first one was, what is their place in the hobby?
Sure. So let's start with that. What do you think the place in the hobby is for repacks?
All right. So my thought with repacks is it's an opportunity to fill gaps within the market, right?
Sure.
Obviously, we have a variety of price points. So I'm going to say variety of price points. You might be, if you don't want a pack of hoops for $5 or a pack of Donruss, like what are your different options on that way up the ladder?
Yeah.
And I think repacks create a bit of excitement in a certain price point space. And it's not just the low end space, because I went to the Melbourne Cartel and I grabbed a pack and I got an Aurora. It was really good. Like, it was
What was the buy-in for that?
25
repack?
or $30. Like, it wasn't much. Like, it was a good, it's like a $30 repack, I think. Yeah, I was just like, oh yeah, grab one of those, see what it's about. Pulled an Aurora, Trey Young, I think it was. I think the problem with the product is it's either everything's loaded up so that the big money card at the top means that either 80% of people are going to be disappointed. It's finding that balance, right? Because it's a costing exercise. But there's got to be this balance. There's got to be some value for the consumer. And the other problem I found, and this is a situation where I was about to buy a repack and the money card went at the Hobby Hangout. I was about to buy a $100 repack and the people that cut in front were just going on and on and on. One finally went, all right, I'll grab one, and got one. And he got the money card. And I'm like, well, I don't want the repack anymore. Literally. Like, bye. Why would I want it if the big card's gone? But the big card's what everybody's there for. So how do you keep people invested in this space? Like, it's got to be a win-win. There's got to be a balance. I think there's a place for them in the hobby. And I think my point, and the question I posed in the run sheet when I think it was the next day, I sobered up a little bit and phrased it as best I could. Do repackers need to evolve?
So what do you mean by that? Just flesh that out just a bit more.
I think one of the things at the Hobby Hangout we noticed were that people had gone a bit cold on repacks. Not a lot. Like, people are obviously still buying them, but there was a little bit of a lull. There were people with a lot of repackers with packs left.
Yeah.
And it seemed like people weren't as keen to buy.
Let me just really quickly touch on that for a second. So I think there was a lot more people selling repacks there. So there could be an argument made that actually a lot of repacks were sold, but there was some left over because there's more repackers with product.
Yep.
And then my perception also too is that the ones who have been around for a little bit more, so let's say Card Fever for an example, and Cherry, and let's even use Melbourne Card Cartel.
Yeah.
They're also getting a lot more established. So I think also the volume in their products is also increasing too.
Yep.
And I don't know what their numbers are. That's just an observation that I made. But so it doesn't surprise me that then they do have some left at the end of the day. And I don't think that means that the market is soft or anything like that. I just think that means there's a lot more for people to choose from and to buy from. So yeah. Sorry, mate. Okay. I interrupted you. Please continue. Yeah.
So the thing about evolution is, if there's a lull or there are more people wanting to be part of the repack side of things, then what do they need to do differently to draw the crowd in? Like, what's one of the ways I can attract more people or keep the thrill of the chase even once the money card's gone?
So typically competition's a good thing, and I think more people doing repacks is actually good, in my opinion. I think this is good for the hobby. I don't think it's a bad thing.
Yeah. And I think the hobby itself speaks volumes about when they give feedback. Yeah.
So I think for me, how do you get people in? I think transparency is a really good thing. So showing what the top hits are, checklists are, and all the cards all the way through. I actually think that's what should be done in a repack. A
full checklist.
That is my opinion.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is then, for example, you should say there's 100 in this set. Or there's 50 in this set, or there's 200. Because I feel like that way, that really closes off a lot of questions around transparencies and honesty and not return on investment. I have a
follow-up question to that.
Yeah.
Do you think different repacks price points should have different expectations? Is expectations the right word? Probably.
So I think if you're spending on a $30 repack, well then if you get an Aurora back, I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah.
If you spend $100, maybe an Aurora would be, say, a middling card. Yeah. And if you spend $500, you might say, well, actually, an Aurora is like the worst card you could get out of it. So that'll be the way I would say in terms of expectations.
because obviously with the higher end repacks, and this is probably where a lot of the discussion started, where it's where does it feel bad the worst. So if I'm spending $30 on a repack, you know what? If I end up with a $5 card, I'm probably not upset. I've lost 25, like $25 value gone. Oh, I could have just bought this for $5, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But it scales. If I'm spending $100 and I get a $40 card, I'm like, I've just lost $60 of value. If I bought a $300 repack and I pull a $60 card, I would be furious. So the question I get is, at what point doesn't it feel infuriating to pull a dud? Because I understand there's got to be a balance thing, and it's a personal thing.
It's a really personal thing, and I think that it really does depend on the way you perceive loss and the way that you handle loss, and also to budget. If I can be honest with you, I really think it comes back to that too, with
True.
how much you can stomach losing before you don't feel happy about it, right? But
yeah,
I think we probably at this point of the conversation, I've sort of been waiting to thread this in. I think really where repacks came all about is because obviously people have got a lot more cards on their hands because people have been going to breaks and buying singles and stuff. But it also came about too is because the return on box breaks, particularly during COVID, was so terrible that even if you put together a crappy repack, it was still better than anything that Panini was releasing. And so I think that's part of the conversation you need to have too. It's like, okay, so if you skunk in a break, you're probably going to get nothing or a couple of base cards. But if you get a bad card in a repack, you can actually make the argument it's still better than anything you're going to get into a break. And so you can also have that mindset a little bit too of, it can be really difficult going into breaks and going into repacks and expecting to get something back from it. And this is probably leading into my next part. If I can be honest with you, a major reason why I go into breaks and repacks is sometimes due to laziness.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't find the card that I want. I can't find something in my price bracket that I'm happy to spend, but I've got $50 to spend and I want to spend it on cards, and I want to jump into something.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I'll take that $50. I can go into Noir. Okay, I got nothing back, but I didn't have to think about it too much. I've had a bit of fun. Okay, I've got $50, or in the case you used $30. Okay, here's my repack, and I'll have a go into that. And I think if I'm being like really brutally honest about the way sometimes I look at the hobby and the way that I'm playing the game, sort of per se, I think it does come down to how much money do you want to spend and lose. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, there's
without doing too much work, man.
Aspect.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Anthony Milner's made a comment about it in the chat.
Sure. Yeah.
So he's gone, live repacks don't work either because there's a limit on the availability and it's revealed on the day. I reckon if it's live, it's got to be a lucky dip system. And I'm like, well, is that what repacks are? There's sort of like a lucky dip.
Absolutely.
But it's the question, and I think it circles back to I want to know if I'm in a lucky dip and you're not telling me the print run of the repack I'm going into. You're showing me a board with 10 cards. Did you pack 500 or did you pack 50?
Yeah, that's right. And I think that does make a massive difference.
Yeah. Like I want to know the odds of the gamble I'm taking, because it is a lucky dip. It's a random thing. And you're right, Russell. Like, I don't disagree at all. Like, you need to be prepared to lose when you go into a lucky dip. Definitely. You might skunk. But I think you need to know. You need to know what you're. You need to know what you're buying, like what type of repack, because not all repacks are built the same. Is probably the point I make with regards to some are fine, and you go, it's whatever. It's pulling your out of your wallet, you go, $50, let's see what I get. And you pull a dud card, you go, oh well. Or you pull a $100 card and go, yeah, look at that, I got a good card.
Yeah.
But as far as those, I think the fun, especially with the all the young people we were seeing, the young families and stuff at the hobby hangout, I think those lower price point repacks, I I don't know. I would have it as some way for the younger enthusiasts to have a little bit of fun. And one of the points I made in the little chat, just a thought piece, is could you imagine a repack that was, I don't know, a $25 repack, but in the release, and the repacker was like, oh yeah, we've got complete insert sets from like retro.
Yeah, sure. Explain this to me a bit more, man, because to be honest, I didn't really understand it.
So the idea would be you seed in your repack series, like you get multiple cards. It'd have to be a multi-card repack, not where you get one single card. But it would be, I don't know, if it's a 5-card repack and you get one insert, 3 star players, and a random hit, right? However it's structured. The inserts are actually made from complete sets of inserts and scattered through the repack release. Now, having just one set might be a bit bad, but having a couple of sets of maybe, I don't know, not the Jordan series, but the cheaper Scoring Kings sets. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like some random 90s insert sets, the triple double set, I don't know, some old hoops insert sets from the 90s or something.
I think at the right price point, that's fine. In the right repack. Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really cool idea.
My thought is I'm targeting this at that younger, that small, that low price point.
And then you could scale it as you go up, right? You could have a set of kabooms in more expensive ones.
If you're buying these ridiculously expensive ones, you're like, you know what? There's actually a set of something in here.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
And then
I think that would be a pretty big repack.
Could you imagine having a one touch? Put a custom redemption in for a whole insert set.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, this, mix it up, do something different.
Look, I think that's a really fun conversation. I really think we could do this for another hour, but we're just about at the end of the show. So why don't we just really quickly change lanes?
Sure.
And let's talk about Franz Wagner, because this guy is insanely hot. Now, I'm not going to read off all of his stats for the last few games, but basically he's been getting 28 points, 27, 23, 32, 29, 31, 32, on and on and on. Rebounds wise, 8, 5, 4, 8, 3, 11, 5, 6, 6, like again going crazy. Assists wise, 6, 6, 7, 5, 6, 6, 8. Now check this out. The Magic have won 11 of their last 12 games. This is without Paulo Banchero. So Franz Wagner is absolutely like killing it at the moment. It's really exciting if you're a Magic fan, because now you're kind of like, well, what's it going to be like when Banchero comes back? We're going to have this really big, flexible 1-2 punch. I'm not even a Magic fan, and I'm excited. So
I think Orlando's about to take that OKC leap. Or
absolutely.
They're taking
they are the OKC of the East. We have said that on the show already. Now, this is also exciting. Franz Wagner raw silver, 20 USD. You're looking for a little bit of value at the moment in the hobby. We have laid it out to you on a platter.
You've just spelt it. It's spelt Franz Wagner.
What a delicious way to end today's show. What are your final thoughts, my friend?
My final thoughts are, now I want to go out and get a Franz Wagner. Like the rest of the episode's just blanked. Yeah, I'm feeling really good about the hobby in general. After this week, the last couple of weeks, it's been really reinforced how alive things are, and the number of good people we have in the hobby.
Yeah.
So yeah. And thanks for the comments, Anthony, in the live YouTube.
Yeah. I think we should leave it there. I feel like I've said everything I want to say today. There's nothing really on my mind. That bit anticlimactic, isn't it, really?
It is. What do you think? Are you going to go out and get a Franz Wagner as well? Let's treat ourselves and go and get a Franz Wagner PSA 10.
I think, look, I think it's a good buy, but yeah, I'm trying to stay away from prospects at the moment.
There's no prospecting. He's going to be the number 2 guy in Orlando. It's going to be great.
I've just got hundreds of prospect cards out. I probably need to sell a few prospects before I buy more prospects.
Listeners, take note when Russell, in a year's time, when Russell's like, I should have bought that Franz Wagner.
Oh, do you know what do you know, actually, talk about final thoughts. Do you know what I'm kicking myself in the ass for? Is not buying Jokic 2 years ago.
That's fair. That's fair.
Seriously, I am actually like low key pissed off with myself. Like sometimes, like the last few weeks, I've been going to bed just like grinding my teeth, like, oh, I wish I just bought that, you know? Yeah. Is that a final thought?
That is
Yeah,
a great final thought.
Yeah, let's go out with that.
All right.